It's going to be a long, hot summer. Tomorrow, the biggest rail strikes in 30 years begin. London gets tube strikes as well. Other unions covering much of the public sector, schools, hospitals, care homes, local government, are also considering striking as inflation outpaces the pay rises they're being offered. And this morning, Simon Clarke, the Treasury Minister, made it clear to LBC there wouldn't be much more money coming for any of those groups.
I think across the whole of the public and private sector, very, very few people are likely to be seeing inflation exceeding pay increases this year. And it is, if we want to bring this pressure down as quickly as we can, that's why discipline and restraint is so important now. If we don't, then we will entrench this and it will keep on playing out over a number of years ahead.
Or, in other words, if you're in work, you have to be prepared to get a little poorer this year. The view from the rail unions is unsurprisingly rather different. Mick Lynch, General Secretary of the RMT union, said at the weekend that Johnson's government was seeking to butcher the working class. The message, he said, was that we are in a class struggle now. Well, that struggle is going to make life that much harder for many millions of ordinary folk. But what about its political effect? It's pretty obvious the Prime Minister will use this against Labour, which is funded by the unions, talking endlessly about Labour's rail strike. And however many times Keir Starmer says he doesn't want the strikes to go ahead, the Tories call it Starmer's rail strikes anyway. Will that work? The government wants to nationalise the rail network. They're launching the state-owned Great British Railways next year. But they don't want to nationalise the talks to end the railway strike. Ministers absolutely refuse to get round the table themselves. There'll be no beer and sandwiches in number 10 under us, they say. Although thinking of what went on there during lockdown, you could have fooled me. So anyway, who will Joe Public blame? We'll get some idea later this week with the Wakefield and Tiverton by-elections. But my suspicion, for what it's worth, is that if we see spreading strikes across the board this year, perfectly possible because of inflation, that will cause the biggest political problems for Labour. And this is such a big story, disrupting so many lives, it could change the shape of politics generally, including the next general election. Johnson is watching carefully. Those strikes bad for the public could be good for him. His predecessor, David Cameron, famously called him the greased piglet. Well, greased piglets move fast.